am super excited to be joined by Steve Davis from Operto Guest Technologies. He's a legend in the technology space. He's a legend in the hospo space. We'll be talking all things technology in 2022. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Bart. It's great to be here.
I've been excited for this episode because we caught up a couple of weeks ago. You told me about everything that you guys do, and I was like, this is so cool. This is great stuff. I'd love to have a chat with you. How about you kick us off, let us know who you are, where you're from, and what you're up to in the hospo space.
Yeah, for sure. So, Steve Davis, CEO of Operto Guest Technologies. We're a Vancouver-based company. We've been around for about 6 years now. We started off very much in, when the IoT revolution started to appear on the radar, especially in the sort of short-term rental, vacation rental market. We were one of the first movers into the space, helping property managers, property owners, owner-operators really scale their businesses through technology. And so we've been on this path for 4 or 5 years, and it's been an exciting ride. And obviously with some of the macro global things that have gone on around COVID, it's really made this topic super front of mind. And I think it's brought forward the runway for a lot of folks who are looking to just scale and really bring their business to the next level using technology. So now's a great time to be talking about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's just so much going on in this space, and we always talk about technology and so many things that are happening. And for me, there's kind of two baskets, right? There's sort of the fanciful, the things that we might need to plan for, be it in the past, it used to be EV cars. Now we're talking about meta and crypto and sort of where that kind of fits in within our world. But then you've got technology, which is super practical, which a lot of people should have in their businesses already, but they might just not even know about it and not know what's available and how it could actually fit into their technology stack, so to speak. So I think at the end of the episode, I would like to come back to you and get your thoughts on meta and that whole space. So we will do that for those of you that are listening. But before we do, I'd like to start off with trying to get really practical for people, trying to get into the mind of an operator and what technology or what a technology stack might look like, and what do you guys do in your company to help facilitate that? How about you kick us off and sort of let us know, in terms of tech stack, where do you guys actually fit in?
Yeah, so if you look at the majority of folks use a property management system, right? So, whether you've got a really small portfolio, you've got, 10, 50, 100, 200, 500 doors. What Operto does is we actually live behind the PMS. And so when a reservation comes through from an OTA or a direct booking, we actually pull all that reservation data down. We'll do background checks. We'll do sort of the pre-stay activities for the guests before they even arrive on property. And then what we do is we actually sort of help guide the guest journey all the way through sort of pre-stay, in-stay, and then even post-stay, just to make sure that we make that as seamless as possible using technology. And the exciting thing about this is that what's happening with the technology, especially the advancements in the current sort of round of IoT and some of the devices and software providers that are coming onto the market, is that really everything's being geared towards providing an amazing guest experience. And above and beyond everything, it's like, how do you ensure that the guest has a magical stay, that they end up sort of rebooking and coming back and leaving you a 5-star review. So for us, it's how can we plug in those IoT pieces? So whether it be smart locks or smart devices, you've obviously got thermostat controls. We can do noise and occupancy monitoring. We can tell you if someone's having a party in your Airbnb. So all these kind of pieces, we actually help the owner operator sort of operationalize all of those things, and then bring it into one place where they can start to manage their businesses a little bit more efficiently. So
really a huge breadth of what you're actually covering. So that all that pre-stay stuff, and then the in-stay, and then the post-stay stuff. Now let's get into the head of an operator that's listening, and let's say they've never heard of you guys before, or they've got the channel manager, they've got the PMS. What are the sort of the most important parts for them to start to focus on in terms of their next deployment of IoT and their next deployment of this sort of technology?
Yeah, so I think the most important thing for any operator is to get the guest into the property, right? I mean, that's sort of the bread and butter. It's hard just to begin your vacation if you can't get into the building. So I think at the sort of very baseline, smart locks, smart devices that allow for sort of access control. That's where sort of most of our customers start their journey is, how do I make sure that when the property management system sends me the reservation, everything gets checked out, and when we send the codes to the door so that the guest knows, that my access to this door or through Bluetooth or however you want to set it up is all set up on the system. Then we sort of start to layer on other pieces. So again, like, we were talking the other day about, noise control and making sure that people aren't partying, making sure, if someone's smoking inside your house or your vacation rental, all these kind of sensors that IoT provides, we tie again all those things in. So you can start to introduce IoT in a sort of very layered fashion, like a layer cake. We usually start again right at the base is like, how can Operto help you get your guests into the property the most efficiently? And then once they leave, we can then tie in things like housekeeping and maintenance and all the ancillary service providers that help you actually run your day-to-day business. So again, Operto, think of us as like an operating system for your vacation rental, short-term rental, or a hotel, and sort of helping your operations run more smoothly.
Yeah, and I want to cover those two aspects in a second. So you've got people that won't have been using this technology that might be sort of solo operators, even property managers that still don't have those sort of systems in place. But then you have the hotels as well. So I will come back and break those two down. In terms of the upfront part, so when we're talking about getting into the property, I think one of the things you told me is that you guys will work with any kind of locking system, that you guys integrate with all of them. Is that right?
It is. I mean, we work with all the major manufacturers. So, your Assa Abloys, your Yales, your Schlage, your Saltos, and really, I think we probably have 99% of the market covered. Again, for us, the way that we sort of consult with folks when they're making hardware decisions, because it can be like fairly capital intensive, is ensuring that we understand like what is the kind of guest journey you're trying to create, what is the kind of operating, like what does your business look like on a day-to-day sort of in a day-to-day fashion. So from there, we can start to recommend different lock types, different IoT that actually works together for the type of property that you're operating. So no installation really ever looks the same as the next one. It's always a very bespoke conversation. And then we help in a consultative capacity to make sure that the things that we're doing for you are the things that are going to work the best for you.
Yeah, right. Okay, cool. So you've got the guest who's about to turn up to the property. So of course you guys are taking care of all those emails and SMS communications, saying, making sure that they're kind of taken care of. And I guess for the guest experience, that's when you can add a huge amount of value as well beyond just getting into the property. So now we've got them in. Now that they're in, you said that you've got different things that you can look at. So smoke detection, which might be relevant for a hotel or not. And like you said, it depends on the property type, noise detection and that sort of thing. What about cameras and that sort of thing? What else is kind of in that package for on-site, and what are the benefits?
Yeah, we don't really touch cameras per se, just because of obviously all the privacy kind of concerns. For us, the main things that we tended to focus on is obviously access. Then we work with smart thermostats. So again, if you've got a guest who has cranked the dial and has got the thermostat red hot, and you leave it for days on, it can obviously add to some pretty hefty utility bills. So we can bring all those temperatures down remotely. We can preset thresholds before they even arrive. And I think for especially in the vacation rental market and in the sort of boutique hotel market, having that noise and occupancy monitoring is critical, just to make sure that people aren't abusing your property while you're not there necessarily, and the ability to sort of catch them before things really escalate, and then really kind of de-escalate things quickly. So I think that the in-stay magic, just with some simple IoT, is possible. The one thing that I think we are exceptionally good at is we've actually built a guest application / sort of, we call it guest portal. And what that is meant to do is really guide the guests from the moment that we get the reservation. We actually issue them their own standalone. It's a progressive web app, so you don't actually need to download anything from the App Store. And what that allows us to do is send them sort of a digital guest book, so they can start to interact with the property weeks, months, a year before they even step on site. So they can learn about things to do, places to eat, what do the amenities look like? Can I pre-order things? And so what happens is that because they start interacting with your property early, that actually what we're seeing is that the cancellation rates are going down because you're starting to interact with the owner. And then you almost feel bad about canceling your reservation because you've sort of been talking and they've been helping set up your stay even before you get there. And so there's all these opportunities for the owner operator to like cross-sell and upsell their guests while they're staying on the property, because we can connect in with like local mountain bike rental places or surfboard rental places, or you want to go skydiving or parasailing or whatever you want to do. Our system is now being designed to actually integrate all the on-prem and off-prem services that are available to your guest into one place, so that they can do everything off their phone without having to go through the phone book or look it up online. It's all right there. So, those are magical moments that IoT mixed with software really kind of brings to life.
And what do you think is kind of, because obviously there's two worlds that you're solving right now. One is that you're going through and you're saying operationally, we're going to make your life a lot easier as a business owner, to be able to get guests in, to be able to make sure the property that it's safe and everything else, and cost management and all this stuff. But then, as you're saying right now, you've got the whole guest experience and how their expectations are changing, and you want to create a fantastic guest experience. And kind of, it's almost what you're saying is if you don't have this digital integration, that you're missing out on huge opportunities with the guest. Which one's more important in your mind? And how does it, if we go back to the subject of the podcast of technology, which is crucial for 2022, which one's more important? How does it all fit together?
So one thing for sure is that the traveler profile has completely been turned on its ear over the last 2 years. You've got now a much more digitally savvy traveler in the business market, right? So and a lot of those business travelers are now coming to short-term rentals. They come out of the hotel space and they're traveling with their kids, and they're staying for longer periods of time, and things are just completely changing. And then also you have a much more digitally savvy traveling profile now, whereas even 10, 15 years ago, before smartphones were completely everywhere, everyone in the world now, more or less, has a smartphone. So people come to expect to be able to run their life off their phone. So when you go to a accommodation, don't you have the same expectation? Like, it just works off my phone. I don't have to then start leafing through a binder on a coffee table in the hotel room, or I don't need to, so I want to be able to do everything in the palm of my hand. And so I think that for the owner operators, especially in short-term rentals, but it runs all the way through boutique hotels, even into the larger chains, is with that expectation in the market, we're building tools and services that speak to that changing. We in Canada, because we play ice hockey, we know where the puck is going, so we've already skated there 2 years ago, and now the puck's arrived. And it's really just sort of going, okay, well, what are the demands that we're seeing from guests, and how can we build products that actually meet those demands or meet the guests where they are? And so I think that that's, for us, the most exciting thing. The one piece I would leave for all your listeners is that it's not necessarily about how much tech you have and how much, how much IoT can I cram into my business. It has nothing to do with that. It's really about how can you put little pieces of technology and software as well into your guest flow that create those moments of magic, right? Like the ability to know when a guest is arriving, because and then be able to like have a bottle of champagne waiting in their room because that they like champagne, or being able to tell them that the housekeeper is in their room when they're lying by the pool because, the IoT pings their phone and says, hey, your housekeeper has just arrived in your room, and you say, oh, can you leave me some extra towels? And can you refill the minibar? And like, here's a $10 tip for cleaning my room today. All those things we can now start to do because IoT allows us to do it. And so, it's not about the amount of tech, it's about how the tech changes the way that the guest interacts with your property. And if you get that balance right, you're 100% guaranteed to get repeat bookings. They can now not go, they can book direct. They can, they don't need an OTA. They can just now create a relationship with you and ensure that you've got that stickiness with the customer.
I couldn't agree more with so many different elements of what you just said, and they really do cover a lot. And I find that interesting enough. So we managed to get away not long ago to a hotel, really nice. But a lot of the things that you were talking about are still or are on the TV, right? So you get in, put on the TV, and it's like, "Bart, welcome to the hotel." And you know what? It felt kind of nice. It felt nice that they had my name and they knew that I was there. And I was like, oh, they've thought about me, but obviously it's all automated from the front desk. But one of the things that's actually happened, and it's the same thing in the restaurant space, is that we all sort of bring our own devices now. So we're constantly engaged on those devices. So a lot of that information we can put onto the device, but not only that, but actually make it more interactive, more catered towards a person who's actually using it, and then improve on that experience. So absolutely agree with seeing the future. So we've gone through those first two sort of elements that pre-check-in, and obviously there's a huge amount of workflow that you could put into that, which we could come back to another episode and do those another time. We've got the in-stay stuff. So we've got all the technology which kind of monitors and improves the guest experience, as well as communicating with the guest and giving them key information whilst they're there. Is there anything else that I'm missing in this particular moment?
Yeah, not really. I think, again, and you touched on it right there, and I don't know if I touched on it yet, is the communication between guest and owner-operator is incredibly powerful, right? And being able to, have them say, something's broken, or can you take a look at this, and have that connecting in with your maintenance team so that you can expedite a fix for your customer. Those are the things that lead to 5-star reviews, right? Like real attention to detail, and IoT can actually drive that, right? And that's the interesting thing is, we always say to folks, it's not about like when you're talking about scaling your business, like if your goal is to go from 5 doors to 10 doors or 10 doors to 50 doors or even greater, how do you do that? Is like you're working on your business. You're not working in your business, And so for us, it's like, how do we remove the day-to-day, hassle and or like friction points for the operator so that they can be worried about other things to scale their business versus like, how do I get people in and out, and how am I making sure that my guest is having a good time? It's really like with software, with well-built software and great devices, you can actually scale your business with very minimal amounts of effort. Because those things do what they're supposed to do, right? So yeah, again, like, in stay, there's magic to be had. Even so far, like we just tied in a service in the last month, which allows folks to now rent things out of your garage, right? So like imagine you go to Hawaii or you go to a vacation rental on the beach, and you walk into the garage and there's 3 surfboards, a couple dune buggies, some golf clubs, all these things sitting there. And now you can rent those things off the owner, through your phone. And it says, instead of going to the golf course and spending $20 to rent the clubs, I'll rent you mine for $5. That is magic. That is real magic. And so again, it's great for the customer because they don't have to lug their golf clubs on vacation with them. And B, it creates opportunities to make more revenue off of the customer. And for sure, they're going to give you a 5-star review because that's cool. Right. So again, you're just looking at those sort of in-stay moments, and then you sort of start looking at the post-stay and how do you stay in touch with those folks.
Now, look, before we go on to that last stage, I did say before that we're gonna just quickly delve into sort of short-term rentals versus the hotel space and sort of the bigger scale. And I think that a lot of what we've talked about kind of crosses over anyway. And I can see the huge economies of scale where if you do it in a hotel, you can just save, tens of thousands of dollars on staffing and on problems and all this sort of thing. How much thinking have you done around the difference between the two spaces and how the technology, particularly this part, fits in for a hotel?
Yeah, I think that they're slightly different, but they all sum up to the same sort of thing where you're trying to create magic for the guest, right? So, in the vacation rental, short-term rental market, I think that what the technology enables for sure is that happier guests. You can scale your business much, much easier, and you're talking to someone who's probably come out of a hotel space and now has expectations around technology, right? Whereas I think even pre-COVID, the expectation was like if you were going to have technologies, you're probably going to find it in a hotel where it's a little bit like maybe more forward. Now, because of the costs have come down so dramatically in this space, now vacation rentals are expected to have the amenities that hotels have, right? So I think that's on the one side of the coin. I think on the other side, where you're talking sort of boutique hotels, sort of smaller chains, and even up to the larger chains. And I don't know what the story is in ANZ particularly, but I know here in Canada, in the United States, and definitely in Europe, there's major labor shortages at the moment, right? Like folks cannot hire people fast enough to fill the front desk. So, when Operto shows up, we're saying, reimagine the front desk, that piece of valuable real estate called the front desk, which is usually the focal point of any atrium in a hotel. Take that desk out, have one or two people roaming around the lobby with an iPad, and instead turn that into maybe a coffee bar or cocktail bar, right? Or like reimagine what it looks like to check into your hotel. So we can do that through IoT, but on the flip side, the owner operator is like, I can't hire people to put behind the front desk anyways. So if that means that I can run my front desk off of 2 people with iPads versus 7 people physically standing behind a desk, that's solving a major pain point for me already. So we've kind of got this perfect storm now, especially in the hotel space where, we have technology that wows the guest, and we also have technology that really helps out with a labor shortage challenge that doesn't look like it's going away anytime soon.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, and you've seen that like in all of hospitality. And yes, labor shortages are the same thing. I think everywhere around the world, it's absolutely nuts. And nowadays, actually, if you go to one of the sort of the interview sessions, they do a whole. You turn up. If they think you're any good, they'll put you in the kitchen the same day and be like, "Get in the kitchen, let's get cooking." It's like that's how much demand there is, like same day hires and that sort of thing. So completely understood for that, and then costs as well. Okay, cool. So we've kind of covered those two elements, and we're kind of on the last sort of stage of the guest experience, which we've been talking about a lot. So the guest is checking out, and then where do you guys kind of fit into the puzzle?
Yeah, so through the guest application, we have obviously checkout instructions before they leave, especially we're sort of talking about vacation rentals. So things to do on the day. It's sort of got a countdown. You can request late checkout, all those things in app if you want to. As the person's checking out, there's automated messages that come through and sort of guide them through that process. But the nice thing about what Operto does is because when a lot of reservations, when they pass through an OTA, will become through like a masked email address, right? So, you won't really know much about the guest. You might know their last name and the email address is gobbledygook and you can't email them afterwards and stuff. Because we are actually issuing the digital key, like we literally hold the key, that when the guest is checking in, it's like first name, last name. If we want us to do some background check criminal record databases, et cetera, Operto can do all of that for you. And then if you want to add an insurance policy onto your stay to make sure that, just in case something goes wrong, you can do that. So we can do all of that before they come. When they're checking out, that gives you your opportunity to actually build your CRM, right? Like, so you can actually start to build a list and actually put an offer in front of them. Say, hey, Bart, I really enjoyed having you stay at my place. It looks like you had a great time. You rented my golf clubs. You were renting the surfboards. You clearly had a great time. Like, I'd love to rebook you and your family in for this time next year. How about we take 10% off the thing and let's get you signed up now? And so what that allows you to do is not only kind of get in front of the guests when they're super happy and they've just had a great stay, but it allows you to cut out the OTA, right? So that they book direct next time and you don't have that friction point around like, well, I go through Airbnb and it's going to cost me 20, 30% of the booking fee for the pleasure of them sending me that lead. Now what we're seeing is that the interactivity between guest and stay and housekeeping and all those pieces, when they operate smoothly together, direct bookings go through the roof. And so that's winning for the hotel or vacation rental, because now you're starting to build your own customer loyalty, and you're ensuring you're able to like sort of smooth out seasonality, because you can forecast much earlier on around peak demand times and start to fill your calendar in way before you normally would be able to if you're literally relying on the OTAs to send you bookings. So again, like these are the sort of cascading effects that we're seeing by being able to control the after stay piece of the guest journey, and then obviously sending them like the communication and all those kind of things post stay. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. From a book direct world, which I am in, I can completely see the value of that, particularly if you can identify who the guests are and why they're staying and who they're staying with. So if it's a romantic getaway, the messaging will be completely different to a business traveler. And if you figure that out at the first step as to who they are, when you come to the last stage of the funnel of trying to get them to rebook, you can really target the message and give them something which is of value to encourage them to do it there and then. And like you said, be it a discount or be it a value add of some sort of, hey, why don't you stay for an extra couple of nights next time, on the house, and they'll really appreciate that. And then also hope you get a better review at the end of the process as well, which is incredibly important. Wow, those are some awesome things to talk about, and I've been excited about this topic because things are changing and they're ever evolving in this space, and whatever conversation we've had today will be completely different in a year's time, and that's what keeps me really entertained. I wanted to ask you, or to finish up, with new technologies and emerging sort of things. So there's the whole crypto space. I don't want to go into that today, but I do want to touch on the metaverse and get your thoughts and feelings about where we're heading and whether you feel it's as big of a if the hype meets the reality of it.
That's a great question. It's the billion-dollar question. My personal feeling is that, humans are social animals. And I think that what we saw during COVID was, when we were sort of physically apart from each other and we couldn't visit our family and our loved ones and our friends, and we sort of were sort of almost like caged animals for a long time. I think, we saw humans don't like that. I'm a big believer in that. I think that, as soon as restrictions started to ease and there was the ability to start seeing people again and the vaccines started rolling out, immediately you had sort of this congregation of like people physically wanting to interact with each other, right? And so, when you sort of look at that on sort of a more macro level, do I ever think that like someone's going to want to go on vacation with a pair of goggles on? Maybe. There's definitely going to be an element of the market that's going to really kind of go down that road. But for me, like I want to physically be able to put my toes in the sand and jump in the water and talk to other humans, versus like a metaverse where you're everything's digital, everything's sort of like make believe. I think that there's always going to be an element of the market which that will address, but it's, in terms of just broader adoption, I don't see it ever kind of, especially in vacations, I don't really ever see it taking off like where it starts to really impact the broader vacation market at all.
Yeah, look, this is such a fascinating one. I can really see it fitting into a space of, before you go, having a look around sort of a thing. But that's kind of like the virtual tours that never really took off, and they haven't done what was predicted to happen 10 years ago when Google was running around with cameras and videoing everything, and it just never really hit the market. And that's the other thing with the metaverse. This has been done before, just without the goggles, and it hasn't really struck a chord with the vast majority. The reason why I'm talking about it, and I wanted to ask you about it, is because for me, the one thing that is obviously going to happen is an overlay of the digital onto the real world. So, you're driving past the petrol station, you look at the prices, and then it tells you, hold on a second, down the road, it's going to be 10 cents a liter or a gallon cheaper. So then you go to the other place. I see your technology in a similar type thing, that we're not trying to change the experience. We're trying to overlay a better experience onto what people have already got, to try to improve on things. Would you feel that way, or am I getting it wrong?
No, I think you're right. I mean, I think that there's definitely an application for like an augmented reality. As you said, sort of that being able to identify that gas is a little bit cheaper down the road. But yeah, I mean, when you're talking about the space that we are in, it all comes down to, how does technology fit into your business plan, right? Like if you have a luxury property where the expectation from the guest is that you are physically going to meet them at the front door or at the airport with a limo or whatever, and clink glasses with them, that's never going to be a place where technology is going to play a big role, because you're looking for that white glove service, that real hand, like human interaction. And I think that, who the guest is and et cetera. For us, where the real opportunity is, and to help property owners scale quickly, is sort of in more the mid-market, right? Where you're sort of going, how do I get from, we find a pinch point at sort of 50 doors, where it's like, how do I get from 50 doors to 100 doors? I tell you how you get there really quickly. It's through technology deployment, right? How do you get from 50 to 500? It's through technology without having to add in all the human sort of capital costs that are associated. But yeah, I think, there's technology plays a role. It always will now. And the expectation of technology has completely changed. The mindset of the traveler is different than it was 2 years ago. So really just kind of trying to get that right. And it doesn't have to be huge. It can just be, try this, try that, layer in this, layer in that. And you will find the right mix that really sort of gives your guest that magic, aha, this is amazing. I love everything. I'm taken care of. They know who I am. That's what you're really trying to create. And, and you just got to think about how you want to deploy the tech to do it.
Beautiful. I think that's the end of our episode. We've come to the end of today's recording, Steve. Thank you so much for joining us and for talking about all these things. They're incredibly important, and they will be so moving forward and into the future. Thanks for spending your time with us today and for sharing your tips and your knowledge and the way that you see things moving forward. The community appreciates it. Now, is there anything that the community can do for you?
Yeah, listen, we're based in Vancouver. There's a lot of Australians here, but they're usually just sort of up helping us run our ski hills. We want to come to Australia and New Zealand, right? We really want to come down there and start making a big footprint for ourselves. Our technology works perfectly in your market. We'd love the opportunity to work with some progressive, property owners and property management companies who are looking to introduce technology. And I think, for us, we work in a very consultative way. We don't sort of tell you how it is. We listen, we work with you, we understand the properties you're trying to turn on, and then we deploy from there. So, please get in touch. We are, I would love to have an excuse to jump on a plane and come down to Australia, because it's freezing up here in Canada right now. Don't have to ask me twice. But yeah, it would be great to have more business in Australia, and yeah, let's go from there.
Beautiful. Look, what I'll do is I'll include links in the show notes, as well as any particular special offers that you choose between now and us getting this show together and ready for broadcast. So if you are interested, then check out the show notes, and all the links that you need will be in there, and ways to reach out to Steve Davis and his team. Look, once again, I want to really thank you genuinely for taking your time out of your day to talk to us, and I'm looking forward to working with you and talking to you soon.
Awesome. Thanks, Bart, for having us, and we'll chat to you guys soon.
Thank you.